Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar, Automation of AP Purchase Requisitions to AP Savings with Compleat. My name is Lauren Hogan, and I'm a marketing specialist here at JMT, and we're very excited to have Bill Hammer, Daviana Smith, and Lucy Day, all from Compleat, joining us today. So just a couple of housekeeping notes before I turn it over to them. If you have any questions during the webinar today, please go ahead and submit them into the Q&A section as you think of them. We'll save them all until the end of the presentation, but don't hesitate to submit them as they come. Also, just a reminder that we'll send you both some handouts and the recording of today's webinar within 24 hours after it has concluded. And so with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Bill, to get us started.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank JMT for taking the time to put this webinar together, and most certainly for you to attend. Hopefully, it will be informative, you'll learn some things, and then also learn about iComplete. So on the agenda today, I'll go through our background, some information regarding AP automation and procure to pay, what makes iComplete different, and then I'll go over to Daviana for a demo of iComplete, and then a demo on advanced spend analytics. So I'm the GM of North America, have been here about a year. Daviana is enablement manager, and Lucy Day came aboard recently on the procure side of our business, which is the advanced spend analytics. The one thing the three of us all have in common is that we all worked for Sage. I was with Sage for about 11 years, actually during the time that MIP was owned by Sage. So I've go through quite a string of time within the Sage organization. Daviana came out of level 2 support for Sage on the Sage 50 product line. And Lucy Day just came aboard recently in the UK from Sage and joined our procurement team. So we have a little bit of a rich background on the Sage, and for me, the MIP side of the business. AP automation and procure to pay, what you should know. Basically, when you take a look at AP automation, it's the process of automating the redundant tasks of bringing in invoices and coding them into the general ledger. And this is done via moving away from paper invoices, and you're probably already getting invoices via email, where they come in and hit into a product that can read the invoice and start to code them. The component with that is at what level can they be coded. Most products may read header, some products may read header and line item detail. And then, with the procure to pay, it's basically raising the purchase recs automatically, getting them to be approved, placed, and then when they come back in, automating the approval process and pushing the AP invoice into the ERP and having the coding taken care of for you. And finally, being able to make the payments. So why Compleat? Why iComplete? A couple of things. On that AP automation that I discussed, the technology predominantly used in the field or in products today is OCR, optical character recognition, which is technology that's been around for quite some time. Some organizations are now adding AI to it, which is artificial intelligence that they can start learning off the OCR. With iComplete, it is 100% AI engine that was written ground up to digitize and read and code invoices. The benefit there is it really doesn't matter what format the invoice is in. It can be a PDF, it can be a Word document, Excel, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what language it's in. It's simply reading and learning everything about that invoice. And then on the procure to pay, automatically raising the purchase recs and automation to payments, we actually take it a step further on the automation side of things, where we've got what's known as punch-out capability or integration into e-commerce sites. In our demo, we will actually show placing a purchase rec, going through the approval on Amazon, and pushing the order into an ERP. On the payment side, We today take it to the payments over to the ERP, where you would make your payments out of the ERP the way you normally do, either through the ERP or payments provider. Advanced Spend Analytics is a new SaaS service that we're rolling out that's really taking tier 1 technology and bringing it available to the tier 2 market at tier 2 pricing. Basically, since we're capturing the header and line item detail of every invoice that comes into the system, that is going into a data lake where we can start now to do analytics around AP spend. So if you take a look at the life cycle of what happens in a AP automation side of things, some organizations simply use AP automation, that the invoice comes in, it goes through the approval processes into the ERP. The online buying and purchase automation is that ability to raise the purchase recs and the approvals, same thing on the AP side with the approvals, and then take it through the digital payments. That's all the user interface upfront type of functionality. Under the hood, you've got the capture engine where we're capturing both the header and line item detail. And then as you get down into the procure side of things, we have that ability now to do really 3 things. One is advanced spend analytics, which is taking a look at category spend by category, spend by supplier, underlying where there's potential savings. The next level, which is ASA Advanced, so Advanced Spend Analytics Advanced, is taking it down to the line item detail, where you can actually take a look at where the savings are, what the behaviors are, to make sure that you're negotiating and getting the best prices across the board. And that's all within the data of your own organization. The third level to that is if you wanted to take it to a full procurement project. We do have relationships with organizations that are focused on pure procurement of stammering for the word here, the ability to negotiate contracts based on the data of the industry along the savings. The beauty is, if you go into one of those organizations, they're going to ask you to, well, give us the last 6 months of your invoices, and we need that all put into a spreadsheet so we can do an analysis of what you're spending against the industry averages. Where we have this all in the data lake, there is no work to do that manually if you want to take it to that level. So we have the ability to offer really 3 different levels of savings when it comes to taking a look at your spend, really changing the story to how much time can I save to how much time and money can I save? And that's what Lucy will be covering. This is just a real nice visual of taking a look at it. Think of this as like different bus routes. There's a percentage of our customers, maybe, I don't know, 30, 40%, that are simply doing AP automation. So basically, I'm sending the invoice in, it's going through its automated approval process into the ERP, the data is going into the data lake. This would be my manual register of approvals, and we actually do have an organization or two that simply use this, and for some reason still decide to do their approvals manually. So you've got true flexibility. You can raise purchase recs and go through approvals, it gets placed, comes through the same way, or the online buying, go through the approvals process. So hopefully that gives you a nice visual. On the integration side, we do have API integrations to Sage Intacct and a few other Sage products, as well as QuickBooks. On the MIP side, we would need to use our universal connector, which basically is the ability to export to an Excel or CSV file and then import the data into MIP. Interestingly enough, about 40% of the organizations that use our product are using the universal connector. The product does extremely well in the nonprofit sector. You'll notice a number of these are out of the UK. I skipped a little section on the background. We are a UK-based organization moving into the US. Company's about 80 people strong, been around since 2008. The iComplete SaaS product is a rewrite of a on-prem tier 1 procure to pay product. So the knowledge that we have in this industry is very strong, and the founders got to do something you don't get to do very often. If you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently? And that's what they did when they wrote iComplete. They wanted to write a product in the SaaS world that was easy to deploy, had strong features, was able to be sold through a channel and supported very easily. And as you can see, very strong in the nonprofit world. It's one of our true strengths with the product. Stanford University, as I mentioned, the Universal Connector, they're using it solely for AP automation with the universal connector and actually exporting the information and taking it into their highly modified version of Oracle. And what they're using it for really is their facilities division to manage all of their properties. Some of the values for the nonprofit world with this product is its rules-based workflow engine. We have the ability to do simultaneous approvals. So if you think of a board, it's been budgeted, the board isn't meeting for 2 months, but we need the approvals to be able to purchase whatever item we're looking to purchase. We can actually, if the board members have access to a seat, let's say there are 5 board members, send out the approval simultaneously to 5. The first one signs, goes out to the next board, next one signs, goes out to 3, next one signs, it gets approved. And then we can also do approvals by departments, which tends to be very beneficial in the nonprofit world. And in that sense, with this rules-based engine, you can literally take it down to the line item and say, if this is a Dell computer and it's over $5,000, it needs to go here for approval. So it's extremely flexible. And it gives you the ability to put some governance around the purchasing from vendors as to what vendors they're allowed to purchase from, so that you can start bringing the governance in place to make sure that people are following the rules. And then the punch-out capability, the ability to integrate with CXML sites, and we will show that with the Amazon integration in the demo. And then next, we can do sales tax by line item. Most nonprofits do not need to worry about sales tax. In some states, it does exist on certain things. So now you've got the ability to have the line item level decide if it's a taxable, non-taxable item. And then the advanced spend analytics demo that Lucy will be doing. And we will be rolling out a budgeting module, which will be included in the product end of the quarter type time frame. The beauty here is that budgeting can be used by the department heads versus simply by finance. So a lot of functionality, really well suited to the nonprofit world. I'm very excited to be with Compleat Software. It's been a year and I've been having fun along the way. And certainly working with JMT has been an absolute pleasure. And with that, I will now turn it over to Daviana to demo the iComplete product.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be on today's webinar call. I'm just gonna go ahead and get our screen going so that we can go ahead and share you what the process looks like when you're raising purchases and managing invoices within the iComplete platform. So at the core of what iComplete offers is the capture functionality that enables us to extract invoice data from your original document. So the original document can be sent via a digital PDF format, and it can be sent directly from your vendor, or you can send that in via yourself. You can also scan documents in directly to our particular platform, and that will be sent via your e-invoicing email address. So that's what we're going to take to extract that data. So all of the permissions that are on the home screen within iComplete are dictated by the user permissions. We have a couple of core user permission functionalities within the system. So as Bill has mentioned, we do have like a workflow approval process that enables users to be able to approve transactions. So if somebody purchases an order, then the approvers would go in, they would approve that transaction, and it would move on to the next stage. So we have also the AP operator. The AP operator is the one that goes into each of the transactions and they edit the transactions accordingly based on the GL accounts, departments, projects, etc. We also have, as I mentioned earlier, the approver. The approver is the one that's coming in, approving these transactions. And then we have a number of administrative options that are available to you so that you can go ahead and set those security in place for your particular company and build those processes as needed. There are two ways in which you can submit a purchase order. So you can do that manually to any vendor that you have connected to your accounting system, or you can use one of our punch out suppliers. So in this case, for this demonstration, I will be showing you how we do a punch out with Amazon Business. This functionality allows you to click on the Amazon Business screen. It brings up a rolling catalog that allows you to select from a number of different items on the screen, or you can type in the item that you wish to order. Once you search for that item, it actually takes you back out into the Amazon internet platform, and it gives you that relatable shopping experience as you normally see when you're shopping with the Amazon shopping site. You go ahead and choose your order. Using a vast variety of techniques, we can actually use an Amazon group to be able to share data such as billing information, shipping information, and before the order is actually placed, and you'll see in just a brief moment, what this does is allows you to place that order on hold. So no order is actually being pushed through. The order is placed on hold for approval and actually puts it back into iComplete. So we'll see that in just a few seconds. I'm choosing my shared payment and shipping methods. Once the user comes to the end of the ordering process, then they can select the option called Submit Order for Approval. When they select the Submit Order for Approval option, it then spits the order back out into iComplete and gives you a detailed option for you to code up different information such as GL accounts, departments, projects, etc. In this particular instance, I'm required to enter a project code for my order. So I'm going to go ahead and select that item, choose my project from the Dropbox, save my order. And in this case, I'm going to have the ability to submit my order through a particular workflow. Once I've submitted my order now is going to be submitted or awaiting for approval by the next user. The next user will simply select that item and they can either approve or deny the order accordingly. If I select the documents and timeline, I'll be able to see that workflow process in place. So I'll go ahead and approve that order. Once this is finally approved, it actually moves from a state of being a purchase requisition to an actual purchase order, meaning that that order is ready to be submitted to your vendor for purchasing. At this point, you are now committing to that order. And this gives you all of the basic information that you need in regards to that order. Moving forward, the AP operator, when they're coming into the iComplete platform, would access the Manage Invoices button. And this is where all of the invoices that are being submitted from your vendor is going to be placed in this particular scenario. So what would happen is we would see the order details here. We would be able to see the original document on the screen. And at this point, we can go ahead and code the order based on whatever analysis information is required. And it's going to extract that information via header and line level values. So you do have that detailed functionality available to you so that you'll be able to sync this into your finance system. Similarly to the purchase order functionality, we would select the submit button, and this would allow us to put it through a workflow, and the approver would come in and they would approve the order accordingly. As I am next in line to be the approver, I can go ahead and select the document that I wish to go ahead and push through. When I select that particular document, again, I will have full visibility into the original document, and I'll be able to see the full timeline of that order being put place. And then I can go ahead and approve the transaction accordingly. Once the transaction is finally approved, it will then go through a process of immediately syncing directly into your finance system. I don't think that was it. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to push through. But what it's going to do is it's going to lock that transaction in so that we can go ahead and have it synced into Sage Intacct. Once the order or once the invoice is synced into Sage Intacct, it will generate a journal number. And that journal number indicates that the transaction has successfully posted into the Sage Intacct platform. And again, we'll still have all of our detailed information as required. Going further, we can see when the order has been matched to an invoice. If you're doing that capabilities, and that's something that you'll learn in the future. But then what's also nice is you can check the payment status of the invoice against your accounting system. So at this point, it shows that the payment status is unknown, but if I was to select the get payment detail, what it will do is update, and it will either return the status of paid or unpaid. I'm actually going to go into Sage Intacct, and I'm actually going to show you what an invoice looks like once it's synced into the system. This particular invoice was updated today prior to our call. And so when you select the invoice, it will go into bills of Sage Intacct and actually creates the actual transaction within Sage Intacct. So you'll see all the normal functionality that you normally see when you're inputting transactions within Sage Intacct. And furthermore, you can also view the attachment that has come through to iComplete within Sage Intacct as well. So you will always have access to the original documentation once it syncs into your platform system. And that is the nuts and bolts of iComplete. And that is it for my part of the demonstration. Next, we're going to be moving over to Lucy, who's going to go ahead and give her demonstration on our procurement software.
Hi everyone, it's Lucy Day here. I'm Business Development Manager within the Procure team within the UK. I'm really excited to be here. I hope you found this part of the session useful. I am still relatively new at Compleat. I've been here now for 6 weeks, and as Bill mentioned earlier, prior to that I was actually at Sage in the UK for a couple of years, where I was supporting practices, accounting practices in the UK adopt native cloud accounting and invoice automation. So what I'm going to spend the next sort of 10-15 minutes doing is just taking you through a relatively new reporting solution that we've launched in the UK and the US for Compleat, called Advanced Spend Analytics. So this is an extension to the reporting capability that you will get within iComplete. And basically what it does is provide finance, procurement, senior management and any other key stakeholder to access a number of reports on a wide range of expenditure areas. But more importantly, it's actually providing that information in real time. And that's across purchase order and invoice header lines, multiple site locations, supplier and expenditure categorization. And from experience, getting that sort of information on a real-time basis can be sort of quite challenging, particularly if it's across multiple sites. We've gone a stage further, and we've actually also broken out the general ledger and nominal ledger coding into its own reporting structure, again, to allow finance and procurement teams to kind of really view how the end users are actually coding their order requisitions. And we've broken down the dashboards into 3 key areas, and that's looking at spend, and then that's by location, and then by supplier. And just to kind of put the demo into context, the data that you're actually going to be seeing in this, although it has been anonymized, it is actually customer data. And the client was a UK client that was based in the UK in the education sector. And it was an education trust that comprised of 24 schools, just to put that into context there in terms of some of the data reference fields you're going to see. So to start with, if I jump into the information panel, what we've provided here is a high-level summary which is showing the volume of data that's actually being visualized by the tool. When all the orders and invoices are being processed through iComplete, what we're also doing is actually capturing all of that data, putting it into our Microsoft Azure data lake and actually querying it in real time. So essentially, this is constantly building a picture of spend from the first transaction to the very latest. In this particular example, you can see that the looking at 35 sites here, it represents 12,000 header rows of data, total of 8 million net spend, and across 1,040 suppliers. And even this sort of high level summary can provide some quite stark insight, particularly around the numbers of suppliers you might be using, which you might not necessarily be aware of. There are that many that you're currently working with. From here, we can then go into a data summary. And basically what this is doing is providing a top level overview of your total expenditure by category. So when any purchase orders are raised, or indeed any purchase invoice is received, what we're doing here is we're categorizing all of the suppliers and vendors by industry standard procurement expenditure categories. So this allows an instant overview of the total amount that your business is spending in each particular cost area. You can use the date range filter that's on screen here to change that. So if you want to become, very specific in looking at a particular date range of spend. And what that does is it changes this graphic on the right hand side here, which is quite useful, so you can quickly and easily see potentially where there have been any spikes or any anomalies with spend that you might then want to go and investigate further. We can also filter by direct and indirect spend. And although we've categorized this, we can, where clients say to us, that's not something that we would consider to be a direct cost, it's indirect, and vice versa, we can change that. But essentially what this then allows us to do is apply a guideline to the potential savings per category. And these savings are provided to us by numerous procurement partners that we have to show actual savings that have been achieved in previous projects. So if I'm looking at indirect spend here, you can see that, fairly common expenditure for most organizations, regardless of sector, is office solutions. And here we can identify that there's potentially 25% saving that we can make, and that represents that value there. Now, I must point out that these are purely guidelines. It's meant as an indication, but that's when the wider procure team within Compleat would potentially get involved in supporting that client if they wanted to do a spend review, where we would engage our specialists to help support that process and essentially go forward through a tendering process to award preferred supplier status of a contract. And the great thing, once that's been done, is through the punch out library that we have, we can build that into the iComplete software so that drives user behavior to make sure that any preferred supplier contracts that you've awarded, that's who the users are using within the iComplete system. But as you can see, it's very quick, very easy to see the highest category of spend. And that, again, may prompt internal conversations for a spend review. And as I mentioned before, this client in education, they did actually want to look at office solutions as a particular category that they were looking at making some savings in. If I go through now to the advanced filtering, this is essentially a tool that allows you to then tailor each subset dashboard to show a specific set of data, whether that's by supplier over here, whether it's by a particular category. We can even start looking at, what users are in the system. And obviously it specifies a number here because the data has been anonymized, but in a real life scenario where you're using this for yourselves, this would actually show the username. So you can even start looking at spend by user. And if I use the client example where they wanted to use review office supplies, if I simply click on that option down here, what you're going to see is obviously that's changed the suppliers and the nominal categories that is looking at. And the site here that you can see it references academy and primary, obviously that's the school location. So you can even get as specific as looking at office solutions on a site-by-site basis. But if I kind of jump to spend over time, having picked that one particular category, what I can clearly see now is a breakdown of a volume of spend, invoice and supplier numbers used within each for annual and monthly period for office solutions. What I can then do is actually get into the nominal analysis side of this, which is where it gets very clever. So what I can see here is a breakdown of spend across the client's general ledger for office solutions. And essentially what happens is each purchase order that's raised within iComplete obviously has to be sort of coded to your own budget account codes. But what that allows us to do is actually provide a very powerful overview of percentage of spend, number of invoices and suppliers in each. And we also provide a graphical representation of that, really, to again kind of highlight any spikes or anomalies with the expenditure. So clients that have started to use this have found it sort of very useful already, because it's finding potential items to query within their business that they wouldn't necessarily have spotted. And for me, looking at office solutions, I'd be wanting to know why, if I scroll down to here, why there are 4 invoices to the total value of $117 sitting in hospitality. I'd be wanting to kind of look at that and understanding why that sat within that category. We can also, as I mentioned before, provide a full breakdown of sites. So again, remembering that this is a customer that is in the education sector, they were keen to know the breakdown of expenditure across each school. So they were keen really just to kind of get that overall view. But the concept here is that we can capture spend across all locations and present this back to you in one platform. And there are other metrics in here that you can customize. So this represents here the number of X by site. This actually represents for this client the number of pupils that are in each school. But it could just as easily be number of staff per site. Just recently in the UK, we actually provided this for a care home group. And actually this represented for them the number of beds in each care home. And the reason why this is quite powerful is because what it allows you to do is very quickly across multiple sites actually view the difference in expenditure in similar sized sites. And a very quick example you can see on screen here, and the reason why I've filtered this to put the highest volume of pupils at the top, is you can see here that there is a site with exactly the same number of pupils spending more than double on a site of the exact identical size. So that to me would prompt a discussion in looking at that particular site and wanting to know why they're spending more than these other sites that are of exactly the same size. And a real life example, actually, just kind of reverting back to that care home client that I mentioned where we did this with number of beds. What they actually did using this report was they were very easily able to identify homes that were of a similar size with significantly different expenditures. And they did actually find one care home that was actually spending almost double the amount on consumable items, just simply because they weren't using, they were using non-preferred supplier deals. So by dealing with that and actually putting the infrastructure in place to remedy that, they've actually, for that one particular care home, saved about £10,000 per year. So that's just one location. If I then jump down into the supplier section here, what I can see here, again, bearing in mind that we're looking at the office solutions, is see all the expenditure by supplier. And what we've done is we've actually put this from highest to lowest with all suppliers that have been used under this particular category. Now, interestingly, Amazon's on top here, representing almost 35% of net spend. But the interesting thing within the education sector, particularly within the UK, is that they have to work in compliance with particular frameworks because education trusts are publicly funded. And actually, whilst Amazon is a fantastic source of all things, for office supplies in education, there are actually a number of very specialist suppliers within the UK that would actually source a lot of the items required for a school at a far lower price. So again, this might not be something that in the absence of this, there would be any awareness that that was actually taking place. But essentially what it then kind of does is it allows you to kind of look into what suppliers that you've got. And interestingly, for this particular client, this actually represents a total of 40 suppliers. And again, they had no visibility that there was that many suppliers being used for just the supply of office solutions. And then I can get into some more detail underneath this. So if I sort of go into this particular report, again, bearing in mind it's looking at office solutions here, I can now see which suppliers have been used under office solutions. But more importantly, I can also see the nominal coding, the total number of suppliers. And the idea behind this report is to bring together procurement and finance to help them be able to make decisions when they may be looking to consolidate suppliers of similar products or services via a tendering process or review. And one of our other education customers, one actually that Bill mentioned in his slide deck, GDST, Girls Day School Trust, they actually saved £17,000 per year within a single month of starting to use this approach, simply by viewing the number of suppliers their sites were using for purchases of paper. And what they then did was found the supplier providing the cheapest unit price and used the Compleat P2P system to then ensure the end users only had access to that cheapest provider. And last but not least, if we jump into the categories tab, this just gives a further detailed view of expenditure percentage, the number of suppliers alongside an average invoice value per expenditure category, again, to help procurement with a detailed starting point for looking at consolidation, supply consolidation projects. So there's a huge amount in here already, but this is a platform that we are looking to continually build and add in. I know that there are plans to incorporate additional information in here to include cost centers, also potentially project codes, as well as some additional information around status of orders, which is currently on track to be delivered within the next 2 months. So hopefully you found this very easy and an intuitive tool. And I shall hand now back over to Bill for any closing comments, and thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you, Lucy. The thing that stood out to me when I was looking at Compleat Software and becoming to work for them was what they were doing with the data that we could impact savings, and then the flexibility of the product with the workflow capabilities. It was very easy to use, and that we could match what an organization's manual process is with the software, that they aren't trying to re-engineer certain things. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't look at things to decide if that's the right way to do it. At this point, I would like to open it up to questions. There is one question in the chat that I will defer to Daviana. Daviana, the question is, can you split costs between departments and or project codes, etc.?
You can split cost across the board, so you can have multiple different lines and be able to split them across different departments, different projects, different GL accounts, etc. So to answer your question, yes.
Yes. my short answer would have been yes, but I'm only 99% 100% sure. Daviana, please handle. So any other questions that we can address for you today?
While we wait for questions to come in as well, if you have any that pop up following the webinar, we would be happy to help answer them. If you just contact us at jmtconsulting.com, and we would be able to direct them back to our Compleat team as well. Looks like we had one more come through for y'all. What if you wanted to print your own checks?
Let me take a look. What if you wanted to print your own checks? From that perspective, yes. Today, where we are on the payment side is we push the invoices over to the ERP, at which point the ERP or whatever third-party product you're using to make payments would take over. We are not handling payments today, so you would have that ability to print checks. Daviana, correct me if I misstated anything.
Yes, as of currently, we don't have the payment processing, but it will be coming very soon. In the meantime, you'll continue printing your checks in your accounting system.
Yeah, in full disclosure, what Compleat software is not going to do is write a payments processing product. There's a number of them out on the market. We are looking to build a relationship with a payments processor, but that isn't in play yet today.
Okay, well, as I said, feel free to reach out if you have any questions following. Just a reminder, we will be sending a copy of the slides as well as the recording of this webinar within 24 hours. Bill, do y'all have any other closing statements you would like to say?
Just, I really appreciate JMT for putting this on, and thank you for taking the time to attend, and we are here to help, and wish you the very best of success.
Yeah, actually, Bill, it looks like we had one more question come through. If y'all are still open to answering. It says, my organization receives paper invoices from most of our vendors. Is there a way to scan those into the system to use this process?
Yes. What we try to advise and work with you on is to get your vendors to send them into a specific email address that it comes through the capture engine. It is simply more efficient. But should you get a invoice, paper invoice in, you most certainly can scan it, and then you simply email it to the email address that we would recommend that they send it to in the first place. And from there, it does get processed. There's a little bit of a time delay on those at times if it needs to be looked at manually the first time. So, but yes, it is definitely a process we can handle.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Bill and Daviana and Lucy, and our interpreter, Anne, for being here today. And thank you, everyone, for attending. We hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.